I call the meeting of the German Township Trustees to order. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mark, do we have the roll call?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Dr. Cross?
Here.
Mr. Stubbs?
Here.
Mr. Potter? Here. All are present.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any visitor comments? Thank you, thank you. Do we have the fiscal officer's report?
Got a number of things tonight. We'll get through them as quickly as possible. First of all, I've given you the minutes from last month's meeting on May 8th. Are there any corrections?
I did not find anything.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 5/8/23 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I've also given you the May financial report. You have the normal 5 reports, the fund status at the end of May, the year-to-date cash summary by fund through the end of May, the cash summary by fund for the month of May, and the May payments and the May receipts. And I do want to point out 4 different transactions. First of all, receipt number 67 for $6,920 even is from State Farm, and that is an insurance payment for guardrail damage from a road accident on Farmington Road. Receipt number 79 for $86,870.91 from the state of Ohio is the first half homestead and rollback tax payment. And warrant number 50681 for $10,307.25 is the township's semi-annual payment to the First National Bank of Germantown for the Valley View Water and Sewer District loan. And the remaining payments that will be paid semi-annually through December 1st of 2025, the total amount is $51,536. And finally, warrant number 50682 with $594,156.98 paid to the city of Germantown are the first half joint levy collections. All levy payments except for the road levy were paid at 90% of the tax receipts less appropriate expenses. And the road levy payment is split between the city and the township based on the property valuations in each jurisdiction. Are there any questions about the financials? Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the financial reports and authorize the payment of all of our bills during May?
I will make a motion to approve the May financial reports and authorize the payment of May bills, warrants 50678 through 50682, and vouchers 327 through 5457 for payroll, direct deposit, tax withholdings, and other electronic payments.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Last month, you discussed the possibility of raising our trash fees, and that would be anticipation of the 8% increase in the Rumpke rates that are going to start on October 1st. And I know we're going to get at some point a recommendation from you, Mr. Stubbs, but I just wanted to let everybody know it's interesting to note that the city of Germantown just increased their trash fees by 7.5% this month. So the new rate and since I live in the city, I am paying is $19.22 per month, or using our quarterly calculation, $57.66. And the only service difference between the city here and then here in the township is that Germantown residents get recycling every week. So just food for thought.
Do you want to talk about the trash bill now or later?
Up to you.
We can talk about it now. I met with Shauna before the meeting and we had discussed a couple different options. I think for the next trash billing that goes out, which when you said was
Beginning of July.
beginning of July, we're going to put hopefully be able to put on the trash bill. She's going to check and see if we can. That rates will be increasing for the next bill that goes out, which would be October. Is that right? October. And the rates we had discussed, and chime in however you guys want to. So we had discussed 65, going up to $65 in 23, in October of 23, and then 70 in 24 and 75 in 25. Does that sound reasonable to you instead of having one giant? This still keeps us ahead because we're behind right now. This gets us ahead so we can pay for postage, pay for Shauna to do the work. And it keeps nice, even numbers to start with. So 65 in 23, 70 in 24.
Would that be, are we going full year, like October 20?
October 1 to October, or yeah, it'll be the October 1 billing. Because that's when the Rumpke contract. And then 75 and
65, 70, and 75.
and that's just to keep it clean. It makes up a little bit so we can pay for Shauna and the postage. And it gets us, because we're significantly behind right now. We're at $50.79 a quarter, and Rumpke's charging us, I think, somewhere around 57. So
57, 27.
yeah, so we're $7 a quarter behind on every trash bill right now.
And that will cover.
Then that will cover our cost. And so all the residents know, we kept it as low as possible for as long as possible. Rumpke came back with this last part of the contract, and this is where we're at. So just based on the national economy, fuel prices and everything, this is the best rate. We actually asked Rumpke to go back after they sent us the original contract, and they reduced it from what originally they had sent us. So I'm prepared to make a resolution or motion, whatever you think is appropriate tonight, and go ahead and get this taken care of to go in effect October 1st.
Make that resolution 2023-25.
Hopefully the public knows that this is the only bid we got for our garbage service.
Yes.
Kind of over the barrel.
So
They could have charged us more.
well, and so that we have 3 years left on this. So when we go out to bid again in 26, we're hoping there'll be at least another company or two to provide some competition and get us a better rate. But this is the last section of the 10-year contract we have with Rumpke. So
Yeah, I think it's better to go an increase every year
Yeah.
versus going 75, and then, because that's not fair.
no, I mean, we could have set it higher, but there's no need to do that. We just need we're doing the best we can for our residents, and that's
We're the middleman here.
yeah. So I'll introduce resolution 2023-25, a resolution to increase our trash rates annually on October 1st. In 2023, it will go up to $65 per quarter. In 2024, it will go up to $70 per quarter. And in 2025, it will go to $75 per quarter based on Rumpke's contract.
I will second that.
Any discussion of resolution 2023-25?
Just to restate that this is, we haven't increased for a very long time. We've held back on doing that, passing along the increase. And this is the best offer we got. So
Jake?
Hearing no other discussion, I'll call the roll. Dr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs?
yes,
Mr. Potter?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-25 is adopted. Okay, I received notice from the city that they were going to be posting the board vacancy for openings on the Fire Oversight Committee, and they were going to be publishing it twice in the Germantown Press. And after getting the notice and reading it, I contacted the city because it only said the city was looking for a volunteer. And I asked if the notice be modified to add the township as well as the city. They agreed. So the revised notice will be in the press starting next week, and I think 2 weeks after that. And putting us on the notice, I agree that we would pay half of the fee. I think that's reasonable, only $40, so no big deal. But I've got to train them that it's not just a city committee. It is a joint committee. So
Thank you, Mark.
they were quite agreeable, but that doesn't mean that they were going to not make the same mistake next time.
Well, this is 2 or 3 months they've done it.
This is twice within the last couple months.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, moving on. Dr. Cross and I attended meetings with the city on May 10th and on June 7th. Those meetings were to discuss the city's fire and EMS fund balances. The city's fire fund is projected to go negative in 2025, and their EMS fund is projected to go negative in 2026. Now, we currently have 2 fire EMS levies that are joint between the township and the city. Each one is 2 mills, and they were passed, one in 2006, the other one in 2010. Both levies are continuous, and as such, the funds collected have not increased over those ensuing years, even though property values have increased. So it was noted that at the meeting that the fire EMS department was partially manned with volunteer labor back when the levies were originally passed. But since that time, the department has become fully staffed with paid employees. So after considering several options, those present at the meeting have recommended that a levy be placed on the November 2024 ballot. Any levy placed on the ballot at an election prior to November 2024 would end up using our current property values for calculating the taxes. And as you have been reading in the newspaper, it's anticipated that revised Montgomery County real estate tax value starting in 2024 will be at least 30% higher, possibly up to closer to 40% for residential. And for CAUV, I've been reading that it might be over 100% increase.
Yeah, that's done.
So because those valuations won't be available on any election prior to November 2024, those attending those meetings felt that waiting until November 2024 would allow the levy millage to be reduced because of the higher property values. That would improve the chances of passage. And I am in agreement with that thinking. Dr. Frost, you want to add anything at this point, or?
Just that the proposed 4.2 mil levy or whatever, close to that, is going to be a continuous levy. So it's going to stay on the balance, which is going to make it, I think, more difficult to pass versus a tie down. The problem I have is that even if they pass the levy, if we pass the levy in 2024, fire and EMS funds are going to be depleted within 5 years, even with the levy. So I asked, why have the balances in all the funds do decrease so quickly? And I was basically talked about personnel costs have gone up so much.
Does that have anything to do with the new building?
We were not told. They didn't really mention the new building, did they? And
They're paying the debt on the new building. Part of the budget.
yeah, it's part of the budget. And the whole idea behind the new building, they were going to use the funds from the ambulance, building the insurance to pay for that. They only bring about $150,000 per year with the ambulance fund. So I'm assuming that doesn't come close to paying the debt. And I said it's going to be a tough sell, being a continuous levy, and the fact the school levy was so large, 2 years ago. To be done, but I don't know how much.
And it's going to be at a presidential election.
So they're going to be
a high turnout.
Yeah, big turnout.
High turnout.
Yeah, so. I agree that we wait until the new valuations until next year, but it's still, I think it's going to be a tough sale. See how things go. So.
Yeah, probably will not end up being 4.2 just because of the higher values, but we don't at this point know what it would be.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on that? Or if not, I'll move on. Because we also have our joint road levy, which expires in 2024. So it was passed back in November of 2019, and it is a 5-year levy. And so at the most recent meeting that Dr. Cross and I attended, they asked that the trustees run the levy in the March primary next year. And because it's a presidential election, the primary is in March instead of the normal May timeframe. So if we are going to do that, we're going to need to start the process no later than November's meeting of this year, because I will need to file the final paperwork with the Board of Elections by December. So if you'll start thinking about it, we've got a few months, whether you want to make it the same millage that we currently have, whether you want to make it a renewal of that millage, a replacement of that millage, or whether you want to do a whole new levy at a different millage. You have those three options. So
Would it be better to run that in November? This November?
we could run it in November. With that in mind, we would actually need to start tonight, because I need to submit that by the beginning of August.
That would take it out of the presidential,
See, let's slip it in there before.
and that would give us 3 chances to run instead of 2.
That's true. So we would need to decide, well, we wouldn't have to decide. I could request the auditor to give us the estimated proceeds based on replacement as well as renewal. But to do a new levy, I don't think we have enough information tonight to be able to
No,
figure that out.
I think I would just try to do a renewal. So, I mean,
That's going to be the most palatable today.
yeah. And at this point, with that being our only income, levy wise, I think it's safe.
Yeah.
You say, look, it's going to be the exact same taxes you're used to, there's an increase, it's easier to sell. That's like I said, it gives you 3 chances instead of.
Well, I think getting it done this year out of 2024 is a plus.
We've had good luck on running it early. Just for that fact of just, gives you that extra breathing room. And the fact of getting it out of the presidential
I agree.
primaries and
I think we certainly didn't want to run it in the November 2024 because of the fire EMS beyond at the same time.
The cemetery is also coming up for its 5-year levy in probably the spring of 24. So that's another thing we're going to have next year. We just actually talked about that tonight. So,
November the one.
so yeah.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
We will need to do a resolution, and I'm looking up the wording that we used last time to do the pool levy. Here it is. Number 45 last year.
But again, I think any levy is going to be a hard sell. I think this is the easiest one. We get more money.
doesn't have a replacement, give it an increase, but we've all seen how that panned out. Didn't.
It is a 1 mil levy. So if you are interested in doing it as a renewal, we're going to make that resolution 2023-26. And I'm going to read it, Mr. Stubbs, if you want to introduce you can, and I'll read it.
It'll be Lou.
Probably.
I'm sorry, Mr. Potter. You want to introduce and I'll read it then.
Yeah,
Because I'm going to take language that we use for a different levy.
yeah, I'd like to introduce resolution 2023-26 for the renewal of
The road levy.
the road levy.
So this would be a resolution requesting that the Montgomery County Auditor's Office certify to German Township the total current tax valuation of German Township, incorporated and unincorporated, and the dollar amount of revenue that would be generated by a road levy, a 1 mil levy for a 5-year period of time of renewal tax beginning tax year 2025.
That wouldn't go into effect.
With first half collection in 2026. It expires at the end of 2024 with first year collection in 2025. That's correct. Sorry. Provide funding for roads, and I'll get the exact language that we need to use. As authorized under ORC section, I'll get the exact section to be placed on the November, whatever, I'll get the date of the election in November. Regular election. 2023. 2023,
2023.
correct.
I would second that.
I wasn't prepared to do that tonight, otherwise I'd have had that all ready for us. Any discussion of resolution 2023-26? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Dr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mr. Potter?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Resolution 2023-26 is adopted. Just catch up with my notes. All right. Moving on. Back in 1996, Lois Davidson and Virginia Stoltz prepared a booklet listing burials in all of the township cemeteries. We have a copy of this booklet, but we are not even certain whether the Germantown Public Library or Historical Society of Germantown or both have any copies. Excuse me. Mr. Holbrook and I have discussed the need. It would be great if we would digitize this information because we only have the one copy. And if it should ever be lost or destroyed, we have no records of what's in our cemeteries. Now, the majority of this book is the Germantown Union Cemetery, and that data is certainly out of date. But the rural cemeteries haven't changed since then. So I talked to local resident Jean Roberts Powell, but she's heavily involved in documenting cemetery records through findagrave.com. And she has volunteered to complete this task at no cost to the township. So if you, and she also will do that here at the township hall. So if you're in favor for doing this, getting it digitized, getting it online, I think you can approve that by just a motion.
I'd like to move to have Gene Powell digitize and update the book listing burials in the township cemeteries.
Second.
Any discussion of the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Several weeks ago, I emailed each of you as well as the city, as well as the Historical Society, because I had received some information in an email from the state that they're beginning to plan the United States 250th anniversary, which will occur in 2026. The state has a special committee set up, has allocated funds and so forth. So in emailing the Historical Society, Germantown, and all of you, I suggested that we get the three entities together, partner in a joint venture to plan a celebration in the Germantown Township community for the 2026 250th. I got very positive feedback from Mayor Terry Johnson and City Manager Judy Gilliland. And Ms. Gilliland even suggested that perhaps for each jurisdiction, as well as the Historical Society, could fund the celebration with a small amount to just get things started, seed money, in other words. So I was not mulling it around in my brain, and I thought, well, if each entity put in $1,000, that would be enough possibly to get the committee organized and moving forward. What do you all think about that concept? Because if you're in favor, I'll push the city and the historic society to match the amount or whatever amount you might think you'd want to contribute if you don't like that.
So where are we talking about having this event?
No idea.
I'm thinking just maybe a little bit broader.
Okay.
The school's going to be complete. Why don't we make it a Valley View community event? Potentially. You include Jackson Township and Farmersville, you get the school involved, you could host it there, which is in the middle of everything. And it'd be a good way for the school to show off their new building, potentially, if they're willing to. And maybe bring in more people and the community as a whole, as a Valley View community instead of separate from Germantown and Farmersville. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know what you would think.
I think that's a great idea.
But the school's centrally located. It should be done, sometime in
How
that.
does that 250-year celebration coincide with Jackson Township ball?
No, ours will be, our 250th for all the townships would be, we're 1803, so it's going to be 2053. Our 250.
Yeah, I don't know, I think $1,000
Yep.
is fine now. We can always, if we see that's going to be more expensive, we can always appropriate.
You're comfortable with 1,000, I'll send that on to the city historic society, and I'll also contact Jackson, German.
Does that make sense to everybody else?
Farmersville and the schools.
It's everybody involved.
That'd be $6,000 if everybody put in 1,000. That's certainly some good seed money.
So,
And hopefully we can play this thing up big in a couple of years. I don't think we need to start now,
No.
but at least we get everybody thinking about it. We get closer to that event. So I won't ask you to approve any disbursement at this point, just talking that might be something we go forward with. Okay. Last thing I really have is just an announcement. The Montgomery County Township Association's next meeting is later this month on June 22nd, 4 p.m. at the Montgomery County Business Solutions Center there on Cincinnati Street in Dayton. I plan to go. Does anybody else want to go? The township?
What day of the week is it? Thursday?
I believe that is a Thursday, yes. As soon as I get to my
I can-
calendar. It is a Thursday.
I'll do my best. I haven't been to one in a while. I'll do my best to try.
You want to ride together? We can do that, or otherwise,
That'll work.
do you know where that building is?
Nope.
It's on the property where the old Delphi plant was.
Oh, okay.
in
Oh, okay. Yep.
Cincinnati Street goes north and south from Edward Moses Boulevard.
Okay.
So you would, if you take the interstate, you get off at Edward Moses,
Okay.
go left, turn right on Cincinnati Street. It's the first building on the
Okay. All right.
4-story building.
Okay.
Is that where Concentra is?
Is that what?
Where Concentra, is there like a health thing in that same building?
I'm not sure. I think there may be.
Is that by the pilot station?
It's not far from, it's just north of the pilot
Lowe's.
station. Yes.
Or Love's, not pilot.
Lowe's.
Lowe's, just
Lowe's.
north of Lowe's.
That's where we get drug tested. That's where we get drug tested. Building.
Okay. The last thing I actually have is similar to what we did last month. I have a request that we go into executive session to discuss the compensation of a public employee or official. And if you're willing to do so, we will need to do that with a roll call vote.
Do that now, or just want to wait till the end? Or
Sorry,
we want to do that now or wait till the end of the
it's up to you.
meeting?
If you want me in it.
I was going to suggest that both Mr. Holbert and Chief Anzick come into the meeting with us.
Yeah, let's go. I move to go into executive session per ORC 121.22G1 to consider the compensation of a public employee.
Second.
All in favor,
Mr. Easter, can I have a roll call vote?
Dr. Cross.
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs.
Yes.
And Mr. Potter.
I'd like to invite Chief Anzig and Mr. Holbrook into the executive session. So it is now 7:30.
Exactly.
No, 7:30. Moving to executive session. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Discussion?
Thank you for doing that.
No, no problem.
Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Dr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mr. Potter?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2023-28 is adopted.
Thank you very much. Mr. Potter, if you could on the back page, appreciate it. I'll get that back to them. Second item on my report, I know the board has been interested in finding out more information about the parking lot. One of the issues I needed to clarify before we can go any farther with the parking lot is the competitive bid threshold. And actually contacted the Ohio Township Association and spoke to Kyle, and don't know his last name, but he was very informative and schooled me on the differences between force account limits and the competitive bid threshold, which I'll be totally honest with you, confused me for 30 some years. So, but he was able to clarify it. Apparently the force account limits, which was House Bill 23, which was in House Bill 23, is any roads on, or any work done on township roads. Previously, the old limits for force account work were 45,000. Anything above 45,000, we had to bid. The new limits will be 105, and they will take an effect July 1st of 2023. Now, competitive bid threshold pretty much is anything else. Buying equipment, putting a new roof on the township hall, building a new township hall, anything that's not road related, that is a purchase. Now, this does not include EMS or schools or anything. This is strictly township trustee purchases other than road stuff. This is in House Bill 33. It has not been passed yet. It has to be decided on by July 1st of 2023 and will take an effect 90 days after that. So we're talking about October. The old limits were $50,000 and the new limits will be 75 if it gets passed, changed, its current submitted form. So as far as the parking lot is concerned, Mr. Heastan and I had a conversation Saturday discussing the parking lot, how that fit into this. And I think in the end, we decided with us trying to use ARPA money, we'll probably have to bid it anyways because it has to follow federal guidelines and not just state. So the whole force account competitive bid thing was a learning experience and it was good to get it clarified, but I think regardless of what it falls under, we probably would be safer to bid it out strictly because of the federal guidelines that implemented falls under. So there you go. So we're going to need to get putting a bid pack together, parking lot specifications and all that. We try to get something comparable. Or somebody try to get some public entity that's done parking that can assist in getting a bid packet together because
Chip down there might be able to help you with that.
yeah, parking lots they do.
Well, I don't know either, but he's done a lot of other stuff too.
Right. Road work is different than, under road work, we usually use either the state contract or the county contract, which they write the contract, they administer it. We don't have to do nothing but pass a resolution and say, yeah, do us too. So I'll start working on that and hopefully we can get something going here.
I'm just saying it might be a good place to start.
That's right. Yeah.
But didn't the city just approved and went through that whole process?
Parking
on the
lot.
Kircher Park?
I don't know what their bid threshold is. They may have just went out on somebody and
Not for sure
do
either.
it, but yeah, I'll definitely get in contact with Chip Waring and see if he can help. Third item is the 2023 micro surface resurfacing contract. Strauss Incorporated completed the micro mix application on Wind Dancer Drive and Starry Night Drive in Meadowview Estates. There was a little bit of damage from residents turning their tires on the fresh surface, and there was a few places that I wanted to touch up anyway. So our salesman said that they'll be back probably the next couple of weeks to do a little bit of touch-up work, and hopefully that'll be completed. The only other thing I had was start mowing the road right away again, and it's 1994 5400. That's a transmission, so it's gotten there in the midst of putting it together. Should have get it completed, get it put back together, and get the roads finished up. And we also took delivery of crack sealing machine, crack seal material. This year's crack sealing, we're just going to do it. So other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Chief?
First item was shred day stats. We finally got those back. We had 1,860 pounds of paper shredded, and that is 160 pounds from last year. And we collected 28 pounds of unwanted prescription medication. That was the same as last year. The next item I have is I sent you a copy of the SRO review for 2022-2023 school year. You had time to read it. Mr. Stubbs pointed out a glaring error in the second paragraph. I put that school began in September 2023. Hasn't happened yet. It should be 2022. So my copy now reflects that. Didn't know if you may have any questions, comments, or concerns. Ross did help me a little bit of it there at the end. If you have any questions.
I think, the big issue, review of the compensation, our costs were $66,731 and they gave us $33,000.
Correct. The report or the review addresses that. And it makes it much more compensation. The car is also included. And Dr. Cross and I discussed just taking the mileage from here to the school per week, every day, then using the IRS business mileage rate.
Wouldn't it, right, the IRS business mileage rate, but shouldn't it, a squad car be more money because of the more expense of being a cruiser? To replace it, is what I'm getting at.
I think that when Dr. Cross and I discussed it, we figured that was the most fair, simplest and fairest way to tack on additional costs.
And that was just the 12 miles a day you had now, right?
Yeah, 60 miles per week.
Which doesn't
Time.
count driving back and forth with the schools during the day,
Well, he's actually,
to the game at night, stuff like that.
correct.
I'm just wondering, should we have maybe a weekly log of his miles that he runs?
Well, and we do get does he turn it in weekly or daily? The office, the SRO during school submits a weekly log and it will have his mileage on it, so.
How much we want to micromanage that.
I understand this.
Because again, we're asking for 2 equal payments. If you have to, I can see, it was discussed in here that the school will pay for any overtime the SRO related to the SRO duties or any training. I think if we micromanage the vehicle too much, is this going to get very confusing?
Well, if we get the contract more fair for us going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have a couple hundred or even $1,000 that we've got to cover for it. I mean, that's a whole lot better than the, 38,000 we covered this year. So I think moving forward, as long as the school's agreeable to what we want to do.
Right, which I am waiting to speak with Mr. Scholler. However, I did inform him that the price range was going to be about 72,000 range. So it's not like it's going to be a shock to.
Well, I think we did a good thing this year, getting it off the ground, and it did cost us at the township more money. But I think going forward, it's the school's responsibility to have this position. So again, I think we did the right thing to get this thing off the ground and charge them much less than it ended up costing us. But to get it moving and get it up and going and make this a long-term solution for the district, I think they've got to step up.
Well,
At the end of the
I
day.
kind of agree to that. I think we should have been much more diligent. Because again, we lost a ton of money. But we should, it's not our responsibility to just. I think these last two, we talked a little bit about this, Chief. These last two paragraphs on the second page, it talks about, so the $89,754 per year is basically what we're coming up for the total.
For the total, yeah. So for just the officer.
for just the officer. It doesn't include the 100,000, whatever, 1,454 for the.
No.
So I guess these last two paragraphs to me are still a little, you're talking about 80%, 20%. Last paragraph, because we're not really talking about us taking care of 20%.
Oh. Mine goes, for some reason, goes to the third page. So a standard MOU, memorandum of understanding model used had schools paying 80% and the township police department paying 20% for that SRO.
I think what it just, I think that muddies, to me, that is not really important to put in there because it just kind of muddies it. Basically, that figure of 89,754, you take 75% of that, add the cost of the college. Because again, get back here. So in review of compensation, right under that, it equates to only 49% of the cost incurred. And then down here, using the cost agreed upon for the 2020-2023, the local school paid 33,000, which translates to 36.76. So we got two different figures there. I think we talked about that before. Why are we talking?
Because the 49% was from 66,000 of just salary.
It didn't include the
It
benefits.
did not include the benefits.
So when we include.
So in the current compensation or going forward, it included the benefits, it included the salary. And then to show that if we would have used that model last year, they would have only been paying for 36.76%.
I say, I think if we take out the standard MOU model.
Yeah.
Because that assumes we're going to pay 20% now. Pay that much more. I told Chief, and I hope you agree, we present this to them. And again, the SRO is only going to the high school. It's not going to go to Jackson Township. They're going to have to figure out that with the junior. Present this to the board. I think, whoever wants to sit in on that meeting, take it or leave it. We don't have to provide it. It's up to them to pay it for it totally. They not going to say screwed us last year, but certainly had to take advantage of the township. If they say that's going to be too much, we'll say, okay, fine. You can be mean about it, but
So if they're willing, if they say they want to pay less, do we say, we're willing to send our officer less days and then work him on the road?
I think it's an all or nothing. This is the way it's set up. He's going to work 5 days a week. And again, Valerie Hill, that meeting, in one of the board meetings said that they have the money to pay for it. They have money to pay for 2 SROs. And at one of the JED meetings, I asked Joe Schuler, about paying for the SRO, and he said, yeah, we should pay for the whole thing. So,
Well, I agree they should be paying for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
again, if they can't afford it, then good luck trying to find somebody else to do it. I don't think it should be our responsibility to subsidize the school district, especially considering what we lost last year. That's a big chunk of change. So anyway, I don't know if we have to make a motion or a resolution or just present this to Joe Scholler.
I talked with Mr. Stubbs and he agreed to go with me one day. We'll set up a meeting.
I think at this point, it is simply a concept. We don't have a document that we can even sign at this point. So I don't think there's anything you need to approve at this point. You're going to go negotiate with the schools. You know what your position is. And then we can come back later and approve it. I think we did something similar with last year's memorandum.
so just to be clear, the board's position is all or nothing.
Okay.
Right? Okay, just wanted to get it from all three of you.
We're good. So this is Joe Scholler's decision that the school board doesn't have anything.
So that's my understanding. I mean, I don't know, but based on the way it went last year,
It's just the superintendent.
I do know that there the MOU we used was checked over by lawyers, both our side and their side. But
Yeah, it's all or none. If they want it, they have to pay. That's just my opinion. Hopefully you guys agree.
moving on. Okay. Well, I didn't know if you were done. If you're done, and lastly, I currently have over 180 hours of comp time. I would like to request a payout of 120 hours of comp time. With the board's approval.
Changes made tonight, that's fine.
Okay, so we have to do that with board approval. We will use resolution 29. And the language we put last month when it was requested from Officer Bateman to get a payout of comp time was a very simple resolution to approve a payout, in this case of 120 hours of earned compensatory time to Chief Joe Anzick. Someone would like to introduce that resolution.
I'll introduce resolution 2023-29, a resolution to pay out 120 hours of comp time to Chief Joe Anzick as he exceeds 180.
Second.
Any discussion of resolution 2023-29? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Dr. Promise?
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mr. Potter?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Resolution 2023-29 is adopted.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
I just want to add that I had made a note here that no discussion of the SRO at the 6/1/23 school board meeting was made, so they didn't mention it. Thinking about it, or that was the Thursday?
Did they talk about any other security type?
No,
You know what I mean by security type?
nothing was
Okay.
mentioned. So, zoning department report.
Board permits were written in the month of May. We had a pole barn on Germantown Liberty Road, ag barn on Friend Road, and an in-ground pool on Friend Road, and a pole barn on Moyer Road. And then I have 2 pending permits. They're still open. We're waiting for payment or whatever. That is a commercial storage building for Valley View Schools and a pole barn on Oxford Road. The Kramer Stapleton lot split case will go before the German Township Board of Zoning Appeals. It actually says June 13th. It was supposed to be. It got moved to the 27th because we could not get a quorum of BCA members. We had to move that. That is at 10181 Carlisle Pike. It's a 7-acre parcel that they want to split into 2 parcels of 4 acres and 3 acres. The German Township Rural Zoning Commission will hold their quarterly meeting on Wednesday, July 5th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And at the next trustee meeting on July 10th, 2023, the German Township Rural Zoning Commission will present a motion to approve changes to section 2, which is the definition section of the German Township zoning resolution at the regularly scheduled meeting. We just couldn't get the public notice out in time after it was approved by the commission. So
Again,
coming next month.
those are the changes to the definitions that got screwed up, and so I had to go through them again. So it's- Is that it, Shauna?
That's all I got.
Trustee reports, Mr. Potter.
Yeah, I've got a couple things. We did not have a park board meeting this month. And the pool, it's going well. And everything seems going good. All the new online stuff for all the passes and all going really well. The dumpster pad is done and the fence is done, and down at Kircher Park. It looks real good, blended real good. The students that we had last month, they did all the backfilling around all the concrete. Everything looks good. Grass is sowed, but of course, nothing's growing. Up at the MMI, I hauled 4 loads of logs out of the brush pile up there. I'll get started hauling on that mulch sometime here soon. Gotta get that out of the way so we can do the layout of where the buildings was. We had a meeting with the city and the Pretzel Festival people about the parking up at the MMI. But we had a finagle last year about all that. Basically, I told them they could do anything they want this year. There's really going to be nothing there in the way. But the following year, we hope to have some pillars and some parking lots and start on the bike, the walking trails. So we will need another meeting for the following President Festival before they plan on doing anything. The soil at the MMI, at the flagpole, the sidewalk, it got all backfilled. It was a little bit short, have a little bit more up there. But again, it was seeded, but nothing's growing. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Stubbs?
All right, I've got a few things. Thank you for all your work with the MMI, because you've gone above and beyond, and it's much appreciated. And you don't get enough credit for it, so.
Certainly for the city.
Yeah. So a couple things. Memorial Day at the cemetery went really well. I would like to note that all of your elected officials from German Township were at least at the cemetery part. I saw all of us there. So that's nice, and for us to be there and show the community that we care about what's going on. Keith, and that was actually Mark Steineker's last Memorial Day. He worked 2 more days after that, but he has since retired. I'd like to thank the VFW Post of West Carrollton, as they donated a gross of flags to be passed out. David Short from the Veterans Museum and the Lions Club were also part of setting out the flags. So thank you to all involved. It was a good turnout, I thought, and the cemetery looked great. It was a good year of no rain, so they were able to get through most of it and have it mowed. Where in years past, the weather has been tricky to make it look as good as possible for Memorial Day. We've had 30 burials so far this year at the cemetery. I mentioned it earlier, we're going to be looking at a possible replacement levy for the spring of next year. So that would be, when would we have to have the paperwork started for that?
The 2024 election will be in March, the
Right.
primary, so you'll need to make sure it's filed by sometime in early to mid-December. I don't know the date offhand.
Okay.
I don't know whether you have to go through a 2-month process the way we do here.
Well, the township runs it. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So it's us here at the township that's
Okay.
going to
It
run it.
doesn't get put on by the cemetery board. And we need to start that no later than November.
Okay.
I'd rather start it in October.
Okay, not a problem at all. So we've talked about it a little bit in the past, the wall along Market 725 across from the gas station in front of the house, the cemetery house, has fallen into some disrepair. So cemetery sexton Keith Burnett and I met with Chip and Jonathan from the city of Germantown at the request of Mrs. Kugel and the city manager, Judy Gilliland. And we're not sure what to do. They're not sure what to do. That we all agree that there's a problem, but we're not sure. The only thing that was made certain is the town or the cemetery's paying for it is what they basically made sure we knew when they left, whatever is done.
What about the park that goes out in front of Whittle?
So it was suggested, and I'll get with Chief, that I contact the neighboring property owner and see what he might be willing to do as well. So I'm going to need you to send my contact information, please, to him and ask if he would be willing to give me a call at some point. So that's the problem too. The split, there's about a third of it on the neighboring property, 2/3 on ours. There's sections in that wall I can get almost my whole hand into. It's cracked so bad back. So we were just trying to, come up with some ideas. They didn't really have any. They suggested I talk to the neighbor and see if he has any ideas as well, because I think he's done that type of work in the past. They had said.
Does the neighbor have a business that does that kind of?
Correct.
I just want to make sure you're on the.
Yeah, Scott. Yeah, if you could send him my contact information. And ask him to give me a call at his convenience. So we're looking at, so what came up is that based on the resurfacing schedule for 725, in 2028, the state's supposed to come through and resurface it. Now, if for whatever reason they were to widen it, they've got to fix it. So we're not sure if we wait till 28 and hope that they widen the road coming through there, but that's not necessarily a likely possibility. It's a long time to wait. So what we've discussed is not very many people use the sidewalk and the wall out front.
The sidewalk is just,
It goes nowhere.
it goes nowhere.
It goes nowhere. The city is willing to let us take the sidewalk out and not replace it.
Okay, that's.
They said. However, any work that we do, even though the cemetery is in the township, any work we do, the city has to approve ahead of time because it's in the city right of way, which my argument would be if it's in the city right of way, it's the city's responsibility because it's not in, they're saying it's not in the township, therefore we have to go through the city to fix whatever we fix. And then, okay, there's a slight disagreement on that, but yeah, we're just looking for ideas. So we've talked about making somehow like backfilling it and just kind of sloping the dirt over it. But we're just looking at options right now. The state has said it's not their responsibility. The city said it's not that it's within their, but it's our responsibility.
Well, if they would allow that, what you're saying, take the sidewalk out and then just put the dirt.
Slope it down a little bit. It's going to be a steep slope. Keith and I were there looking at it.
You'll have to bring the steps out somehow through the dirt.
Yeah. Well, the steps, so that was another thing that got brought up. If there is a large funeral and people have to park across the street, people see the stairs, so they run across the road there, which isn't necessarily the safest at the hill. There's a little bit of a hill there. So Keith had talked about trying to get people to move more west when they cross and not at those steps, but come on down towards like the entrance, the driveway entrance when they do park and cross the street. So eliminating the steps was probably what we're going to need to do as well when we do it. So we're looking at possibilities. There's nothing easy, of course.
I'm just saying you got plenty of dirt. I mean,
We definitely have plenty of dirt at the moment. But we're looking at it. We're not looking at an immediate solution. We're looking, we're trying to get a plan together so we have something fixed in the next couple of years is what the goal is. And just to keep, when we do have parades, when we do have events, we're going to block the sidewalk section off, the sidewalk that goes nowhere, that make sure that people don't come up and go down that way just as a precaution. There is a gas line running under it. So, and there may be the water main is on the other side, but there's going to be water lines coming to the house as well. So we'll have to have oops come out and do their little marks on everything, but there is definitely stuff in the way. So we're still working on a solution on that. I already talked about the replacement levy. June 28th from 5 to 7 p.m. We're having a retirement party for Mark Steinecker at the Farmersville Cafe, free of cost to the cemetery. So
What was the date?
it's Wednesday, June 28th from 5 to 7.
And where is it again?
Farmersville Cafe on Center Street in Farmersville. So if you would like to attend or anyone else would like to show their appreciation to the 20 plus years Mark put in, you're more than welcome to come. And the more the merrier for him would be great. I do have a question for you, Mark. I can ask you, you can get back with me later because you probably don't know off the top of your head. Do you know how many more payments the cemetery owes us for the land?
No, but
They were thinking like one or two more payments.
Well,
We wanted to make
if
sure,
you're saying 10,000 payment,
a 10,000 per payment, yeah.
that's, I think, 2 and change.
Okay,
But I have the exact, after the
Okay.
meeting, we go in and get the exact number. that
I
they-
appreciate it. We're trying to look forward to what we're needing to do and some changes we're going to need to make down there with Keith and so on. Another thing we talked about, and I know you have to leave, but starting next year, Keith would like to have some type of extra help. So I know I ask you every year and you don't like the idea, but if we have somebody we could share between the city, the township, and give somebody more hours in the cemetery, that we would each pay to have one person having enough work for one person, basically. We're looking at approximately April through July 4th is what we would need for summer help to get caught up with Memorial Day, to get through the early mowings and then get some foundations poured Because we're next, so Keith started out with Mark's, so they had 4 people. Now we're down to 3 going forward. So we're talking about that for next year. So just something to think about. I know you don't like that idea. Potential help with mowing the cemeteries for you.
We don't have the time, that's the problem.
No, I was not, we're gonna hire somebody in to
Oh, you're gonna.
Share
have a shared employee.
employee.
So just something to think about. I know you don't like that idea, but
He or she will have to be employed by all 3.
right. So we're looking at like
Hey,
college age, somebody who's gonna be out for the summer, like Keith did when he was younger. And that's the reason he's working there now, honestly, is because he worked there in the past, I think, or at least a big part of it. So to have extra help, to have one person that could work for our cemetery, could potentially help mow your cemeteries, and then help out at the city if needed as well, to get more hours for one person. So just something to think about. That's not anything we need to do in the next several months, just informational. Moving on, WRCG, I signed the Rumpke contract. We already covered the rest of that earlier. And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Jake. My report, I attended the 6/5/23 Germantown Council meeting. Highlights were the 7/3 council meeting was canceled. They didn't reschedule that because of the holiday. But there's an interesting motion to grant one-time additional holiday pay for 7/3/23 for eligible employees was approved. They didn't really mention how much it costs the city. They're paying an extra day. There are 3 businesses interested in leasing Dave's Garage. That's positive. Chief Aldred requested the purchase of 12 new radios. And he basically said that 60 will be needed eventually for use by the police and fire EMS at a cost of $50,000. The old radios, I guess, no longer work with Marks. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Ours were with March.
But yeah, so we can look at that. So the work session involved eventual upgrades to the sewer system in Germantown. Discussion involved upgrades in mostly east and northeast sections of the city. Interestingly, phase 2A, 2B, 3, and 3 involved township property. City manager stated there was no current plans to annex any of those areas. They're looking at providing sewer, but it's actually township.
The old driver.
So there was no mention at the meeting of the new Dora signs, the new solar powered crosswalk signs, and section of the school. So,
paid for, the signs are paid for by grants.
yeah, luckily solar. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
So on 5/19/23, I received an email, and you may have also see this. The public health state in Montgomery County has the goal to inventory and assess every septic system in the county by 2030. This will entail searching for systems currently not permitted and communicating with some homeowners regarding the process and requirements. Any system identified as creating a public health nuisance can either be repaired or replaced within 5 years. So I thought Montgomery County Health starts to come out and inspect sewers, septic systems in the township. People are going to be.
Yeah, it's not gonna go over well.
Did you?
I didn't get that email.
I didn't get that email.
Copy of it. Like we can all make copies of it. They send a hard copy too. So my question is, they actually offered to send somebody out to meetings to explain this. We want to have maybe somebody come out next meeting. Maybe it'd be a good idea.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of people.
Septic systems that are going to.
Means inspect the septic.
Yeah. Good. I mean, what's their business in doing?
It says owners have a choice of who performs a system assessment. It may be a registered service contractor, local health district staff. I'll make a copy and let you guys listen to this, and then we can have them explain it to us.
Before we leave.
I thought that was very interesting. So I don't think too many septic systems are probably going to, because some of them are so old.
I'd say that's what their goal is.
That's what they're, yeah, so.
What is it pretty, are they quoting or citing to give them.
Under the authority of OAC 3701.29-19 and ORC 3718-02, local health districts are tasked with making sure property owners perform the proper maintenance on their sewage treatment systems. Property owners with septic systems are required to have their system professionally maintained. Have a field assessment performed periodically to check the proper functioning and obtain an operating permit from the local health district.
I'm not gonna go.
This is.
I put dog food in mine every week.
So anyway, I thought we should be aware of that when they start actually making, sending letters. So.
I don't think it's any of their business in the first place, but
Unless it's a problem.
unless there's a
It's a
problem.
problem.
But to go find problems
That
that
is
aren't
a find.
problems, exactly.
Yeah, so the last thing I have, I will be meeting with zoning commission president Kurt Jacoby and Tricia Taylor on this Wednesday at 4 o'clock to discuss possible solar panels zoning things. A lot going on with solar panels and so let's see how that goes. So, I have a lot of handouts for you Wednesday, so I'll get those ready for you, make copies, and so we can go over. Yeah. That is all I have.
Just one question regarding the email we got before the meeting about the property.
That is being addressed,
Okay.
so he left, he sent that email to Lou, he also left a message and has been trying to
Got it.
contact him, so he will submit a complaint form. And then once that is submitted, then we can send him a letter. The interesting thing, the guy that owns that lives in Cedarville, so he doesn't live there. But he is up to date in his taxes, so if we have to go in there and then mow the grass, we can, his taxes.
I could look at that mode.
Yeah, and we said he would mind, but if you do that, make sure you give us a. Yeah, so it is being
Okay.
addressed. He acted like no one is addressing it, but we haven't. And I actually took some pictures of it.
Okay.
We have that there, so. Any old business? Any new business?
One piece of new business. I didn't bring up the 4th of July parade. Of course, it's scheduled at Kircher Park at 9:30 a.m. for the lineup, starting at 10 a.m., starting at Astoria Road, ending at Veterans Park. No throwing a candy and no throwing anything. Freddie Glander is our grand marshal.
Nice.
I did hear that he's hurt. Something on his foot or something. So hopefully he'll be better for that. I have a lineup here if anybody needs it. Other than that, hopefully the weather will be good.
Again, I brought up to the fact that a group last year marched in that was not welcome. Supposedly the participants in this parade are supposed to be all the Valley View School District population. We're not supposed to have outside groups come in. But I got to control that.
That's exactly right.
There's no
We're just-
registration, there's no-
We're not wanting to bring attention up.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll just,
Anything else? No,
No.
go ahead, Lou.
nope, that's it.
All right, if nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned at 8:35.
We'll get